Hey everyone, so I wasn't in studio yesterday, so I couldn't really give my thoughts on the Parkland school shooting, which happened in the afternoon on Wednesday as I was leaving the studio. And partly that's a good thing, because if I were to report on it on Wednesday afternoon, I guess I would have had to use incomplete information, and there are all these rumors swirling about in situations like this, so a lot of that happens in the wake of tragedies like this one. And because I'm sure you all know some of the facts about this story, I'm going to give you some overarching ones that then I really kind of just want to give my thoughts about some sociological reasons that horrors like this happen. So the shooter's name is Nicholas Cruz. He is 19 years old. He took an Uber to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on Valentine's Day, and he used an AR-15 rifle that he purchased legally to gun down his former classmates. He shot people inside of 5 classrooms on the first and second floors of the freshman building, and then he hid his weapon so that he could flee, blending in with the rest of the students. He then went to a Subway near the school and a Walmart, and he bought a beverage, and he was eventually apprehended by the police. He is facing 17 counts of murder. This shooting is in the top 10 deadliest shootings in modern American history, and 3 of those top 10 have come in the last 5 months. Let that sink in for a second. Cruz was so terrifying to his fellow students and teachers that he was banned from carrying a backpack to school. He posted photos on Instagram of the animals that he killed for sport, which is really a textbook sign of someone who is mentally disturbed or has mentally disturbed tendencies. He would also allegedly kill chickens and squirrels for fun. He had some violence towards an ex-girlfriend. He also posted photos in a Make America Great Again hat, and he posted photos of all the rifles that he owned. Cruz picked fights with other kids. He stole people's mail. He threw rocks and coconuts and vandalized property, neighbors said. He lurked at late hours along drainage ditches, running along the backyards of their houses. One woman said she caught him peeking into her bedroom window. Another caught him stealing their bike. In Florida, an AR-15 rifle, the NRA proudly calls the most popular rifle in the country, is even easier to buy than a handgun. Florida has a 3-day waiting period for handgun purchases, but anyone without a felony record, domestic abuse conviction, or a handful of other exceptions, such as a commitment to a mental institution, can walk into a gun store, wait a few minutes to clear a background check, and walk out with an AR-15 style rifle, magazines, and ammunition. Under federal law, you also must be 21 to buy a handgun from a firearms dealer, but 18-year-olds can buy semi-automatic rifles. Okay, so now this is mostly about gun control, because all empirical evidence shows that gun control could have stopped this. Scientific research and examples from other countries have empirically shown that we can reduce mass shootings with simple regulations that have a wide amount of American support: universal background checks, banning guns from those who are mentally ill, the assault weapons ban, and more. These have overwhelming support from Americans, just not the NRA, which is bankrolling the Republicans. But I would be remiss if I didn't discuss the sickness in our country, the other sickness, the other factors that led to this. Could he have committed this carnage without a gun? No. Without an automatic weapon, less people would have died, for sure. But there is an underlying societal problem that shouldn't go undiscussed either, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Comedian Michael Ian Black touched on it yesterday on Twitter, and it just got me kind of thinking. So, toxic masculinity is really crushing men in this country. So, while feminism hasn't achieved the end goals that it needs to do, like the pay gap and other discrimination, and abuse is still rampant, as exemplified by the Me Too movement in recent months, feminism has at least given women an outlet and a movement to redefine their femininity as they see fit. Feminism as a movement allowed women to think about how they want to express that femininity. But men haven't had that. A lot of men, as Ian Black pointed out, are still stuck in the same pigeonhole of masculinity that has been around for decades, centuries. And I'll read a quote that I think explains this a little bit better than I'm doing right now. We raise our boys with an acceptance that violence will be part of their behaviors. Boys will be boys. While teaching them to repress all feelings except for anger, boys don't cry. in a society which objectifies girls and women. While problematic in and of itself, patriarchy hurts men too, we see that abusers overwhelmingly come from abusive backgrounds, and thus only replicate patterns that they have learned during their childhoods, patterns which, while criminal, are ultimately reinforced in a number of ways in a masculine culture of violence. Society tells us all at a young age that for men to be considered masculine, they have to be strong, aggressive, and lacking in empathy and emotion. This naturally leads to repression and anger. And for those who are already disturbed that anger and repression will manifest itself in horrific violence, or could do so, no matter your race or religion, like the right wants to say. This isn't an anti-men argument, even though I'm sure some alt-right wing trolls will take it that way and go after me, make fun of this pimple or something. In fact, it's actually the opposite. It's me saying that society needs to have some sort of parallel movement for men that women have found in feminism. Now, it's not going to be about equality like feminism is, for sure, but it is going to be about freeing men from these constraints of these societal norms. Militaristic and violent bravado is not what makes you a man, despite the fact that that's what's been reinforced. And it's important to note that while the right wing refuses to do anything common sense about gun control in Congress, they also refuse to change the conversation surrounding toxic masculinity. The right is chiefly responsible for keeping toxic masculinity in our national discourse, beer, football, violence, like forcing men into these traditional heteronormative gender roles, women too, of course. They don't have an answer for gun control on the legislative side, or toxic masculinity on the social side, and then they cut funding for mental health programs while they're at it, while saying it's a mental health problem. And that's probably why this terrorist was so drawn to the right. He was a MAGA bro, allegedly, with alleged ties to white supremacists, even though they are now retracting, claiming him as their own in a Daily Beast story the other day. So they epitomize that toxic masculinity and they fuel it. So yes, men are the ones that are committing these mass terroristic shootings. But unlike conservatives, we on the left are thoughtful, and we know that when there are horrors, there are likely socio-political factors behind them. We're not just grouping all people together. On the political side, there is a disgusting amount of guns in this country with easy access to assault rifles. But on the social side, there is a sickness in the way that we define masculinity in America. And I think that that's important to address as well. But I will end with reading the victims' names. Scott Beagle, Alyssa Aldahef, Martin Anguiano, Nicholas Dworet, Aaron Fease, Jamie Guttenberg, Christopher Hickson, Luke Hoyer, Carol Lauren, Gina Montalto, Joaquin Oliver, Elena Petty, Meadow Pollock, Helena Ramsey, Alex Schachter, Carmen Schentrup, and Peter Wang.